Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is Once Upon a Time. We're going to talk about how we often live in a fantasy world of how the world should be. And then when reality doesn't measure up, we get disappointed and despairing. So we get to talk about living a magical life in the real world rather than in this once upon a time fairy tale land. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together and vigorously rub those hands together to feel all the sensations, the heat, the pressure, the temperature, the friction, and the tickling and tingling when you stop and allow all those feelings, all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. Good morning to everybody else who's joining us. Great to have you here with us this morning. And today we're talking about Once Upon a Time. It's very interesting to me that we grow up with these fairy tales. You know, we're like the happily ever after ending and rainbows and sunshine and flowers and Prince Charming and all kinds of other fantasies of how life should be, you know, that so Rosalind says, continuing the conversation about expectations. Yes, exactly. That's kind of a general theme, really, because so much of our lives are about our expectations, aren't they? Like that we create this context for our experience, and the context is generated by the stories we tell ourselves. And then what happens is that we often believe in the stories, despite the fact that they have no grounding in reality at all. We believe in the stories of how things should be. And then when reality doesn't measure up, we're disappointed. And I can't tell you what a struggle it's been, like a perpetual conversation with some of my clients about their the disparity between the way they believe life should be and the way life shows up. And it's so fascinating to me that we can enforce our fantasies, enforce our fairy tales over reality, and then live in the disappointment rather than recalibrating to how things are. You know, there's so much magic to be had in the way that things are just as they are, you know, but when people have a marriage that doesn't work out the way that they believed it should, or they have a partner who doesn't show up the way they should, the operative word here is should. You know, life should be easy, or people should be uh, a certain way. And then the thing that is so destructive about these fairy tales is that they're typically the things that I'm calling fairy tales, they're based on a fabrication. And most of you probably aren't that old enough to remember the Donna Reed show, which was just like this perfect American family where everybody was happy and everybody got along and there weren't high dramas. And it became sort of the model for how life should be. And you grow, it used to be, thankfully, it's a used to be, as a female, you would grow up and find a husband and he would take care of you and you would take care of the household, and you'd have 2.5 children and a white picket fence and a dog. And I get that this is an old model, but there's still quite a few of us who grew up with it. And there are still cultures within our greater culture that promote that kind of fairy tale. Like this is this is how things are supposed to be. And that we have certain roles we're to grow into, and those roles have certain rewards, and it makes a nice, neat little package, except when it doesn't. And Rosalind says, trying to fit a peg into a square hole. No joke. No joke. Just the whole notion of fitting pegs at all, right? That we're pegs. And that's really what it's kind of about, is that there are these standards that society sets, that our subcultures set, that are even our faith often sets for how things should be. I had one client who believed that they should be experiencing all kinds of feelings of love and bliss. And the thing is that they weren't. And so something must be wrong with them, because they weren't able to achieve this place of blissful awakening. And so this kind of expectation, this fairy tale kind of thing, resides in so many different communities. I mean, even quote unquote enlightened communities, there's a certain experience that you should have when you meditate, or there's a certain what kind of revelation that you should have if you have a transcendent experience, and all these shoulds that are really part of a fantasy, of a fairy tale, that that then becomes, oh, excuse me, excuse me, that I'm having all these allergy symptoms. It's crazy. I don't usually have allergies, but wow. Anyway, we have these ideas of the notion of how things should be. And we've been raised into these fantasies in so many instances. And we don't, so much so that we don't even recognize that they're fantasies. If we look at get a good job, get a good education, and everything should work out, right? Like this is another cultural fairy tale. Rosalind says, so discerning between what nature intended versus culture. Ooh, I love that. That's such a beautiful challenge, Rosalind. And I think that that's what it's about, really, is to be able to connect to our essence, our individual essence, and not necessarily try to fit in. There's tremendous cultural pressure to fit in. And we see so much pain experienced by people who don't fit into that cultural fairy tale, the cultural norm. We're trying to rewrite some of these. So Jenny, good morning. Good morning. Once upon a time, how we live in fantasies and fairy tales and try to make life comply. That's what today is about. So we have these cultural expectations. We expect, the family should be like Donna Reed. And for those of you that don't have that reference, it was sort of this perfect American family, with 2.5 kids and a dog and a picket fence and a happily ever after. And then when life doesn't look like that, we think something's wrong with life instead of looking at the fairy tale and saying, hey, well, maybe that fairy tale isn't really the way things are. And so the truth of the matter is that life itself has so much magic and beauty in it that we can presence ourselves to without all the shoulds, without all the expectations, to just slow down and quiet ourselves and look at the world around us, participate in the world as it is. There's so much magic. And when we try to enforce all of that on circumstance, that doesn't look like the fantasy that we've conjured, somehow we might tend to give the fantasy precedence. So Gia says, good morning, Gia. Good afternoon, good evening to you. It's wonderful to have you joining us. And Jenny says, yeah, I expected my daughter not to turn her back on me, and I was devastated when she did. Well, so we expect our relationships to look like these fantasy relationships. And the fact is that relationships are messy. And there's all kinds of dynamics that happen in them. And nothing happens in a vacuum. A relationship takes two. And when there's discord in a relationship, both parties are party to it. And there are often really hard, difficult lessons that we learn or we don't learn. And there's often tremendous pain on the way there. And so we get to flow with life and look at what life serves us, because it's not happening in a vacuum, and look at it as feedback. The experiences that we have and the interactions that we have and the way that life emerges is feedback. And it's a dance. We always dance back and forth with life. It's not like it should be a certain way. Yeah, it would be nice if it were. It would be nice if we had these idyllic relationships. It would be nice if we could get the support that we needed. It would be nice if all these different things, it would be nice if. And reality may not be that way. And we get to deal with what reality provides us and move from that space to dance with life and learn life's lessons and hopefully improve our I'm not going to say improve, I'm going to say evolve in our way of being, um, to be able to find magic in our lives, wherever it is to be found. Rosalind says, so if not comparing, where's the reference point? That's a good one. That's a great question. If going back to what is your nature, maybe starting with dispensing what is not you. Yes, I think, one of the sources of misery for me in my life was trying to be somebody that I wasn't, not accepting who I am, and partly not accepting who I am because I got messages that from other people that would say, who you are is not okay. And so the comparing is maybe something that we need to do, is something that, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought because Jenny, I just read your message, and Jenny is saying tomorrow she has outpatient surgery. And so Jenny, I just want to make sure that that we all send you tremendous love and light and healing energy, that this goes easily for you. And I'm wondering if there's any way that you can maybe get a nurse or something to be there to help care for you if you need the care. In any case, just know that we're rooting for you, and that it goes easily, and that you heal well from it, and sending you all kinds of blessings and light. So when we talk about this fantasy and finding magic in the real world, what we can do, a practice that can be helpful in this endeavor, is even in the face of obstacles or disappointments or failures or tragedies, that at some point, and it might not be immediately, because we get to process what it is that has occurred also, but at some point, the question to ask is, what is the opportunity here? What is the opportunity? And the thing is that there are always opportunities. We might not be ready to experience them. We may not be ready to recognize or acknowledge them or interact with them. We may be so overcome by immediate grief or trauma that we're not ready. It takes some time before we can possibly be ready to recognize the opportunity. But there is an opportunity in all circumstances. And when we are able to recognize that, then we can find the magic. We can bring the magic back into our lives. Gia says, I've faced this myself all my life, that I've never been okay being me. I was always trying to be something I'm not. To come to terms with it is so painful. So I agree. There's a lot of pain in not being ourselves and feeling that we're unacceptable. In fact, often being told that we're unacceptable. That there was lots and lots of messaging, certainly, that I received, that it was not okay to be who I was. And I know I'm not alone in that. I think that that's what so many people experience. And so we come to a point in life where we become the arbiters of our own fate, where we give ourselves permission. Unfortunately for me, I think it was like when I was 50 is when I finally said, you know what, I've earned my bones. I have earned the right to be who I am. And the thing is, we don't have to earn that right. We really, truly do not have to earn that right. We have that right to be who we are just by virtue of who we are, just by virtue of being. The fact that we're here means that we have a right to be who we are, that we're here because it's our mission to be here, to be just as we are. Jenny says, get to know yourself is such a great discovery. Yes, exactly. Like our culture is a culture of conformity. It's a culture where we are encouraged to conform. Look at school. School is years of indoctrination to teach us how to conform, how to behave, how to comply, right? That's really what we're trained into. In fact, that was one of the objectives of schools initially. It wasn't to educate, it was to placate, not even placate, but condition people to compliance, to have people learn to keep a schedule so that they could be better workers. So Gia says, thank you, Jenny. Best wishes for your surgery. Lots of love. You won't be alone tomorrow. Exactly. When you get back home, we're here cheering and sending you love and healing energy. Exactly, Gia. Thank you for that. Jenny says, be like everybody else. Yes, exactly. We're encouraged to be like everybody else. We're encouraged to be normal. It's so funny. At one point, I don't remember how old I was, but I remember my brother just screaming at me saying, why can't you just be normal? And I also, one of his sons at one point said to me, you are so weird. And I said, you say that like it's a bad thing. So, there is, welcome, Kimberly. No apology necessary. We're delighted to have you joining us. The thing is that we are so encouraged to just toe the line, to don't make waves. Don't make waves. In other words, just fit in and be invisible. And the thing is that the world is so calling for our expression, for our uniqueness, because we are in a time of history that is calling for unique approaches to the many, many challenges that we are facing as humanity. And we need to find innovations and transformations to be able to deal with these challenges that we are confronting globally. So Jenny says, when you're different, you're labeled as an outcast. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Black sheep. I'll bet there are a bunch of black sheep that are here with us today. I'm just like, bah. I am one of those black sheep, have been always. And, what we learn is that, or what I'm learning is that it is the black sheep who are the ones that are generating change, generating new possibilities of what the world can be. So Gia says, I'm wondering if there's any definition to so-called normal and weird. Gosh, yeah, right? So normal is unexceptional. That's kind of one of the definitions that I've come to. is, you know, if you're normal, you're part of the norm, average, right? And I don't particularly think that that's anything to aspire to. Do you? Um, I'm very much more interested in expressing our potential, our unique individual potential. And that means defying the norms. It means going outside of whatever the norm is. The norm is kind of the thing that keeps things moving in the direction that they're moving. And right now, wow, there's so much that needs to change direction in a big way. So Rosalind says, how do I see myself without distortion? Maybe if people around me are reflections, somehow we're seeing ourselves indirectly. Getting to know yourself directly is the practice. So I don't think we can see anything without distortion, frankly. And maybe we can minimize that by allowing ourselves to absorb or be present to the spectrum of feedback, including our internal feedback. I don't know that we can ever truly see reality as it is. So Bernadette, welcome. Good to have you here with us. Glad you're here to catch any part of today's conversation. We're talking about fairy tales and how we often try to compare life to fairy tales, and life doesn't measure up, rather than being with the marvelous story that life itself is. Kimberly says, today I celebrate my journey of making better decisions, no drinking, living clean. It serves me no service. And I used to think that something was wrong with me if I couldn't have a drink socially. Now I know that it's not. So that's a really big deal, Kimberly. Congratulations. And we celebrate with you. And that's another, social norm, is people drinking at parties and whatever, or business meetings, and, like having a drink, that's the social norm. And we talk about peer pressure, that's all part of the social norm, is all these different peer pressures. Now there is more tolerance for variety. I mean, when I was growing up, I was a vegetarian. I became a vegetarian for the first time when I was, 12 or 13. And it was not a norm. It was not accepted. It was weird. And so like now, vegetarianism is very, very common, and there are many, many options. So anyway, I'm going to continue because you guys are coming fast and furious with the comments here, and we're almost out of time. So Gia says, I meant to say, is normal to me is abnormal. It's boring, and I've never seen any normal person so far. All of us have different dimensions, and there are areas where we all behave so-called abnormally, and that's normal. Gia, I agree with you. There's this fairy tale about normalcy. What's normal, right? It's a fabrication. It's just a construct. And 8 months, Kimberly, congratulations. That's awesome. And Gia, you're very sweet. Gia says, I love your show, Mira, Rubin. As in, when it gets possible, I love to be here. Well, we love having you. All of us, I have to tell you how much of a gift it is to me that I'm getting to know each of you, and that you come with some regularity, and that you contribute from your heart. And it's heartwarming and inspiring to me. also to be able to have these conversations with you. So I'm deeply grateful. And so, Jenny, we wish you a very successful surgery tomorrow, and we'll all be sending you our prayers. Jenny says, I wish it were an hour instead of 30 minutes. Thank you for that, Jenny. That's very sweet. And so that's it for today. Let's live in the real world and find the magic here, shall we? I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and Enlightened World Living. And until next time, 1 hour in the new year, please change it, says Gia. I don't know that I can, but I so appreciate the sentiment. So much love to you. Until next time, I hope to see you again